My dear friends, good afternoon or good evening as the case may be. And this is another edition of the Bill Crane Report with Chris Gleason and Groundhog.
Oh, that's right.
Today's Groundhog Day. And we've invited as a special guest a groundhog. He's going to sit in on this. I don't think he's going to have much to say, but he'll add a little class to the show.
Absolutely.
There we go. Well, folks, we're going to launch into Chapter 2 of some of the more ridiculous PC examples that are going on in our country. But before we do that, I do have a few other things I'd like to mention. One that interests me. And this story from St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay.
There's a Superfund site out there that has radioactivity.
Oh.
And it has the different administrations have been considering what to do about this since 1990.
Wow.
But get a load of this. The radioactivity comes from World War II, from the Manhattan Project.
Wow.
And it's been sitting there, and they've been doing nothing except talking about it. So, and it's not, I mean, it is a lot of money to clean it up, but $36 million over 5 years isn't really a deal breaker in this day and age.
Right.
But yet no one's done anything about it. President Trump said, clean it up. They are moving ahead with it as we speak.
Wow.
Can you imagine since World War II? Doing nothing. Our government at work.
Well, people are afraid to take a stand these days.
That's right. That's not going to happen here on this show. So I thought I'd bring that to your attention, folks. And this is an article. I'm not going to read it to you, but the headlines are interesting. In-law units boom to meet housing demand in the Bay Area. If we look back at our history in this country, the early settlers built a house. Now, they had kids, so what did they do? They built an addition on. As the kids got married, built an addition on the other side, went off the back. Made sense.
Of course.
Because we were primarily an agrarian economy at that time. The kids stayed and worked the farm, got to eat, got a place to live, and that's how we existed. Well, as we progressed,
Okay.
We went to single standing homes. And then, of course, we had the housing boom after World War II. When the VA, the GI Bill, VA mortgages, everybody was buying houses. We got away from that. But now in-law apartments are coming back because the kids can't afford to move out unless they get a rocket scientist job. Some of them pay well, by the way. But generally speaking, the kids that move out after college, they can't afford to move out.
And plus the senior citizens that are in a standalone house can't afford to maintain that house.
That's exactly right. So what happens? we see families moving in with the elderly folks, or the elderly moving into in-law apartments with their sons and daughters, and we're going back to the way it was.
Right.
So I guess what I'm saying is, if you don't like what happens, stick around, because the old days will come back again.
But some towns have zoning laws where you can't put a mother-in-law addition onto your house.
Norfolk used to be that way. They used to stop you dead in your tracks on the duplexes. We couldn't have duplexes either. But that is moderated now, and from what I understand, anything goes now. Now, once upon a time,
Long ago.
back in the old days,
Our childhood.
yeah, newscasters had to be literate. On 1/22/18, WBZ radio at 1:50 p.m. for you folks keeping score, a story about the Holy Father, Pope Francis, marrying a couple on a flight on a commercial airline.
I heard about that.
Yeah, and the reporter used the following words to describe what happened. Nupatils. That's how it broke down, was NOOP-A-TILLS. That was his attempt at nuptials. A broadcaster on WBZ radio, Nupatils. You gotta love it, folks. I got another complaint. This one really gripes me. There's an ad on TV, just over and over and over, like the Chinese water torture. It's from an outfit called Coast One Financial Group. And it shows him and her standing, looking at the camera and smiling. We had our tax bill. We fell behind on our taxes, both in our business and our personal. And we went to the Coast One Financial Group, and they worked with the IRS and lowered our bill from $42,000 down to $294. And then they both smiled, okay, like Cheshire cats. Guess who's paying for this?
Oh, of course.
You and me. How in the devil can they be doing this?
Well, they can reduce some of the debt because some of the debt is interest over the years.
Yes.
So I can see where they can get rid of that, but go that low, it's awfully low.
No, so either there was a tremendous error by their tax preparers or an error by the IRS. But jeepers creepers, if the government's counting on 42 grand to come in to keep the government open, and all it gets $294, they're going to come to you and me and want the difference. Now, I'm going to introduce our other guest. And our other guest happens to be Nancy Spector from the Guggenheim Museum. Now, she is the head cook and bottle washer there.
Okay.
And the White House had the effrontery to ask to borrow a work of art, I think a Monet, if I'm not mistaken, to hang in the White House. Now, this is common practice that the presidents ask for museums to donate a work of art for a couple of years to hang in the certain areas, the busy areas of the White House. This woman wanted to send a 14-karat gold toilet that was real, that worked,
Functional.
and had been used. Now, obviously, this woman doesn't care for President Trump, but I think she stepped over the line with that. And I think perhaps we should start a petition and suggest she gets 15 years in Guantanamo Bay. Because this is just ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
So.
Did they get the money, though, is the question.
I don't know. Because when this thing blasted out, the Trump administration publicized it and said, look at this. And they just let the chips fall where they may. I doubt that they got anything. So, on that note, friends, we've seen enough of Nancy on this show, and we're going to go back to a friendly face, Woody the Woodchuck, on his day.
What was the verdict today? Did he see his shadow?
That's a good question, and I'm not sure. I've been so busy today, I haven't had a chance to take a look. And it's down in Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. So, if memory serves me, they got rain down there today, some of which is headed our way. Maybe he didn't see his shadow. But anyway.
I have a complaint, too, today.
Let's have it.
And this is from the news. When I listen to the news, and I don't do it all that often, the newspaper reporters are interviewing a representative or a senator, and they say, what do you think the vote, how is the vote going to go? And they say, well, the Democrats got this many and the Republicans have this many. I don't want to know that. I want to know what is in the bill itself. And I was going to fault the newscasters for the whole of it, but then I heard a newscaster ask specifically about an item in the bill, and it was for the border. What do you think about putting up the border wall? And the senator answered, I think our security is very important. It's important to all of us, and we need to have our borders protected against terrorists, etc. He said nothing about where he stood, or whether he wanted the wall or whether he didn't want the wall. And I don't think we're getting any information at all. It's all fluff.
Do you know that a lot of the proponents of the wall, the supporters, are just as concerned about the inflow of illicit drugs across that border? It's just like an open, they're just flooding in across the border.
Yeah, but we've had that war on drugs for many years.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, but they feel that the wall will enhance security about the drugs coming in.
Well, I've seen that they've got 4 models of different walls down there, and they're testing them out.
More than that, even.
But the thing is, no matter how high the wall is, all you have to do is dig a little hole at the bottom. I mean, you can have the most beautiful wall, but all you have to do is get under it or crawl through underneath.
I think there's going to be a lot of high-tech stuff that's going to be looking down.
I think what they really should be doing is improving the people come over the border, they go to the jail, they check them out, and then they say, well, you're going to have a court hearing. And you can go until the court hearing. Well, they never show up for the court hearing.
It's ridiculous.
So they should send them back, give them a court hearing date, send them back, and say, come back later.
If you're still interested. Yeah.
So, and I also heard that a lot of the Border Patrol are not on the border. They're about a half a mile inland.
Yeah.
So you can have this glorious wall, but if you don't keep up all of the regulations, it's useless.
We've got to get serious about it. We've got to get the military down there. And we really got to approach this professionally. And put them in Guantanamo, right along with
We haven't got enough
Nancy.
room in Guantanamo.
Orrin Hatch, the senior senator from Utah, is retiring. Very clear-thinking man. And he was really mad on the House of the Senate the other day, on the floor of the Senate.
Okay.
He said this: "This is the greatest country in the world, but we have some of the stupidest people in the world serving here from time to time."
Okay.
I thought that was well said by the senator. Yeah, they usually don't talk that way about each other.
Well, he can say it when he's retiring. I notice a lot of people who are retiring are speaking out now, but only because they know they don't have to appease everybody.
Well, actually, Orrin Hatch has been pretty outspoken throughout his career. He was big friends, by the way, with Teddy Kennedy.
He was what?
Big friends with Teddy Kennedy. And that was, he was like Teddy Kennedy's door into the Republican Party,
Okay.
and vice versa when they wanted to talk.
Okay.
Well, how do you suppose the Democrats would feel about this? I don't know, but go talk to Orrin Hatch. He'll find out. So that's a valuable thing.
Very.
Pope Francis came out against fake news very strongly.
Wow.
And he said, when you are lying, you're bearing false witness.
Good for him.
And he came out and he really laid into the media and the stuff that they make up. Very proud of the Pope. Well, in California, only in California, do you know that you can get a $1,000 fine and up to 6 months in jail for serving a drink with a straw? They can only be supplied legally when a customer requests them. You know, if California separates and floats out into the Pacific, here's one vote for not going and getting them and bringing them back. Unbelievable. Hey, you want something else really dumb?
Sure.
South Korea has built an Olympic stadium.
Okay.
The Olympics are there now for $100 million.
That's not much.
And it's out in the middle of nowhere. It's going to be used 4 times and then torn down. You know why? Because it's ruining the ecology, the landscape, and the people that live around it don't want it there. They settled for it as long as it's torn down afterwards. $100 million. Who was it that said, "What fools these mortals be"?
Probably Shakespeare.
May well have been. He was always walking around saying stuff like that. More PC run amok here. I went over to Roach Brothers, but it happens every place. I went over to Roach Brothers the other day. I was in a hurry. And I had some of this, some of that, some of this, some of that I had to get and get back home. So I was zipping around, not doing anything dangerous, nothing. But I was going up and down the aisles. I wasn't racing, but I wasn't dawdling either. And people are walking along. "Oh, sorry." Getting out of my way. "Sorry." "Oh, excuse me, sorry." I went around to turn. Lady is coming this way, and there was not going to be any collision. We were clear of each other. And she says, "Oh, sorry." What are we doing? What is this all about? I mean, my goodness gracious. Are they so terrified of invading your space? Do you think I'm going to run amok? And they constantly apologize. But my favorite happened again the other day. Going to make a left turn into my yard on Main Street.
Okay.
Okay? There's a car coming the other way. One car. She slams on the brakes and goes,
Only in Norfolk.
what in God's name could she have been thinking of? There's nobody behind her.
Well, she doesn't know what's behind her.
Yeah, that's why they put mirrors in these cars. Do you know what my father told me when I first got my license? He said, you need to have your eyes on the road, on your top mirror and your side mirror constantly.
Wow.
And that's how I drive. But if she just maintained her speed, she would have been by me in an eyelash, and I would have pulled in the end. But I had to wait for her to stop and then go through this charade.
I wouldn't complain about that. I think that's nice of her, or whoever stopped.
I don't. I found it very aggravating.
And Roach Brothers aisles are not very wide. In the produce section, it's very difficult to maneuver around.
So you're going to apologize for all these lunatics that are terrorizing me. Oh. Hey, by the way, what do you think about Berkshire Hathaway, JP Morgan, and Amazon combining to form their own private healthcare company?
I think it's fantastic.
Isn't it? You may not remember, or you may not remember reading my articles in the old Norfolk Boomerang, but one of the things I railed about from time to time, I can solve this healthcare problem very quickly by taking the smartest people from business, from banking, from the finance area, and from the insurance companies, because they know how to set up a plan. And I would take them and lock them in a room and say, you're not getting out until you have a plan. And they would be able to do that faster than these idiots in Congress.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we have to have a subcommittee, have a hearing on that. We're going to find out how that impacts the plastics industry in Toledo, Ohio. And
I thought that was a brilliant idea.
I think it's absolutely brilliant. Warren Buffett, Jamie Dimon, who's probably the smartest guy in the country, and Amazon, that's just the master marketeers. Holy cow. And I had that concept and nobody paid any attention to me.
That's because you don't have the big bucks.
That's gonna be it. According to a study by the Pew Research Group, this is going to scare you. 45% of Americans get their news from Facebook.
Oh, I didn't doubt it.
This sounds far-fetched to me, that this is where people are getting their news from.
Especially the younger group.
Oh, mother. You know, when I was a kid, and I've lost my little piece of paper. Oh, rats. Wait a minute. No. When I was a kid, I was reading before I went in first grade. When I was 7 or 8, I was reading 4 papers a day.
Wow.
Now I didn't read every story in them. I read the sports, I read the comics, and I went through the news and read the headlines, and if something appealed to me, I read it. But I read the Boston American and the Boston Herald, the Boston Traveler, and the Boston Record. And on Thursdays, the Franklin Sentinel. Now, I don't think that's anything extraordinary.
Well, I do.
Oh. Well, anyway. And they get their news from Facebook.
Well, one thing about having a whole bunch of newspapers is at one time they used to have different opinions and different slants. Now they seem to be all the same.
And by the way, we didn't get the Globe at my house. We didn't get the Post at my house. But there was actually 6 papers. The Record and the American were the same tabloid kind of newspapers, one in the morning and one at night.
Oh, yes.
And the Traveler and the Herald were full-size papers, one in the morning and one at night, put out by the same companies. Probably the Herald was probably my favorite. They had a great sports section. But
Well, in the future, there's going to be more internet news than newspapers. There's no doubt about it.
News, you can't believe half of it. This is scary.
Well, can you believe half of what you read? What's printed?
Well, yeah, and you can't believe anything that's on the news on the major channels. NBC, CBS, I don't know.
Well, at least at Facebook, you know that those people aren't being subsidized commercially. I mean, people can say what they want without having to appease to the market.
Yeah, but Facebook also, though, does print certain news stories from certain news sources.
Oh. I'm not on Facebook, so I don't know.
Yeah, and at least that's my understanding.
So
And
they reprint, they take from others and they reprint it.
So,
and do they have to pay any royalty or anything?
No. And this is what Fox News is saying. You know, you would get better news if you paid for it.
Right.
And this is dangerous because Mark Zuckerberg can pick what he wants to put up.
Hearst, didn't he pick? And all those other big newspaper mongols.
I hate it when you're logical. Stop it. No, they were fair-minded.
Oh, yeah.
Balanced.
And the thing is, you get all these different newspapers and you think they're from a different source, but they're actually all from the same source.
A lot of them are, and they have different stories, so they're putting their own spin on it. So where does the truth lie? This show right here, a beacon.
Even history books are being rewritten.
Oh, tell me about it. Yeah. Look, I've told this story before, and if you people have heard it, this is a good time to go to the bathroom. But I have told the story before about teaching CCD at St. Jude's to 9th graders. And we were talking about something one day, and I happened to say something and said, well, it wasn't as bad as the Holocaust, but this is a real tragedy. And I had 2 or 3 really smart kids in the class. Mr. Crane, what's the Holocaust you refer to?
Incredible.
Incredible. 9th graders. So I said, well, okay, kids, fold the books up, and the rest of the time we're going to talk about the Holocaust. And I did my best to explain to them what happened. Afterwards, kids came to me and said, Mr. Crane, why don't they teach this in school? Therein lies the question. Why not? I don't know. I don't know. But that's you know what? That's a subject for a whole show, I think. But jeepers creepers. Anyway, all right. I got one more good story, and then we're going to get to the PC craziness again.
Oh, you think all those were good stories?
Look at this. Look who wants to run in 2020. John Forbes Kennedy. Kerry.
Kerry, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Kennedy wants to run too, but this is Kerry.
Did you happen to see young Carrot Top's response to the State of the Union?
I listened to 2 or 3 minutes, and I said, I don't want to listen to this. It's garbage.
It was held in, I guess, an abandoned factory in Fall River.
I thought it was Lowell.
No, I think it was down Fall River.
Okay.
In fact, I know it was because there was some reference to what's Fall River famous for? Well, Lizzie Borden and unemployment and all that. And he had just a shirt on, a dress shirt with the sleeves rolled up.
Well, that's so he blends in. It makes them feel right at home. And the other thing I heard, he had a hand-picked audience.
Yeah, oh, sure. Well, any of those campaign events, the audience is almost exclusively from the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. But they don't just say to the unwashed, come on in, free chow.
Now, how can you have bipartisan if right down here at the roots level, they don't mix? I mean, I like to go to hear all different sides, even though I'm not a Republican. I go listen to the Republican. I go listen to I'm an independent, and I think I need to hear both sides. But I suppose they figure it's going to be newscast, so they don't want anybody causing a ruckus.
I got to tell you this. Those people from Fox are dirty players. At the end of Hillary's campaign, the cameras were fixed.
Okay.
So that it was her, and they showed the people down in front, and the people behind her, but the camera never moved. And those dirty rats from Fox got a camera in there, one of the small ones, and showed all the rest of the seats were empty. That's unfair by Fox, huh?
Well, even when you listen to the State of the Union address, you saw the people clapping, which was for Trump, and then the other side didn't clap. And most of the time, they just showed the people clapping. They didn't show the other people who were not clapping. Just, they were in the distance, and you really couldn't tell whether they were clapping or not, but they weren't. So even in that speech, it wasn't fairly showing both sides of the aisle.
Well, the Democrats sat on their hands for the entire speech.
Yeah, but it didn't really show that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right, because it was the major networks that were doing it, which are pro-democratic. So they're not going to show that, the Democrats sitting there not doing anything.
Well, I saw Nancy Pelosi. She clapped for one, but for most of them, she didn't.
Oh, that was when the Republican guy fell down. That's what she clapped for. Yeah. Anyway, moving right along, yeah?
So they do have what they try to, but it gets pushed off to the side quite frequently. They're supposed to have media literacy taught in, like, starting the 5th grade, which tells about all the things that cameras can do to sway your opinion. And it sort of gets pushed off to the side, but that's very important.
Oh, I agree. No, I agree. And and I don't know how the devil you're going to stop it, because if you own NBC, how are you going to broadcast the show the way you see fit?
Yeah, but that's fine if there's also another network that's viable that can show their side.
That's exactly right.
And unfortunately, it's not. It's just it's more and more, they're joining together, they're making conglomerates.
Well, yeah, and not only that, but they also say, well, look, rather than all of us send camera crews to this stupid thing, why don't we just send one, and we'll all ride that one. Right. And so it's, yeah.
It makes economic sense, but...
It does, yeah, but not good reporting sense, right. Yeah. The State of the Union, how did you like the speech?
Trump, I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was the best speech he ever gave. He was thorough. He hit all the major topics. I thought he was a little smug at times, self-congratulating, oh, look what I'm doing. This is wonderful. I'm wonderful. But I thought this, and the idea of including ordinary people who are outstanding people in the speech was another brilliant idea.
Yeah.
It may not have been his idea, but I thought it was an excellent
but
move.
the staff's idea, sure. And he had to approve it, obviously. But yeah, the only thing I would say was I expected a little more fire and brimstone from him, but he was more presidential.
Exactly.
Yeah, I thought it was, brilliant. Yeah, close to it anyway. Yeah. I kept waiting for him to stub his toe and make a mess of it. It never happened.
No.
I think that's why a lot of people tuned in. But no, and I also thought the couple of days before when he was over across the pond over there at the big financial meeting in Davos, I thought that speech over there was excellent too.
I didn't hear that one.
Yeah, he talked about what I mean when I'm talking about putting America first.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's truly what he means, but I think it's more appealing to the rest of the world to hear that.
Well, you take a look. Just for instance, pick one nation, France.
Okay.
Okay? We rescue them in World War I. We rescue them in World War II. They're a signee to NATO, one of the original 15 countries. And then, because de Gaulle gets a snit, he pulls the country out of NATO, so they're not paying for any defense in Europe at all. And then there was one French politician, and I'm sure if I research it, I can find him, who said something along the effects, if you're not happy with us, why don't you take your damn bodies and go home? Or something along those lines, I paraphrased. But, so when we talk about us being number one, there's plenty of other number ones out there too. I mean, Germany is certainly looking out for what's best for Germany.
They all are underneath.
Of course.
And I've said for years myself, is how can we be giving millions of dollars away to all these countries when we have poor people in this country who don't have food and who do not have health care? I think that's a shame. It's just terrible shame.
I believe strongly that everyone in this country should be covered by some form of health care. To me, that's a right as an American citizen. I'm not too fond of some of the other stuff that they want to do, but I think health care is very, very important.
Of course.
But it's also very expensive. And this triumvirate that has been put together, they may just come up with something. Because my kids, all of them one time or another when they were 15 or 16, worked at McDonald's or those places. They all had health plans for the kids that worked there. Now, I think you had to work 30 hours a week in order to get them. And there was a big deductible. But by the same token, they had something if there was a catastrophe. I'm not saying that everyone deserves to have the Cadillac of Cadillac plans, but access to health care, yeah, it should be.
And they do say it saves money in the long run because if you spend more on preventive care, you don't have these things develop into worse situations.
Yeah.
But if we can give millions and millions of dollars away, I don't know why we can't, even if it is expensive, spend some of those $1 million here.
Yeah, I'm not, I can't argue with that. I can't argue with it at all. But, another thing that drives me nuts is Haiti. The island nation of Haiti. the poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere.
Okay.
We send stuff down to them. It's all stolen and sold on the black market. Nothing ever gets to the poor people.
Right.
I've told this story before. They needed trucks when they had the earthquake. General Motors sent down 24 dump trucks. They landed on the docks, but no one was allowed to move them until a tax, the equivalent of the value of the trucks, was paid. The last I knew, they were still sitting there. Unbelievable. So, we can be the most generous nation in the world and try to help people. But if we can't get what are we going to do? Go to these countries, invade them, and make the people take our money? So folks, I was giving, on one of our last shows, some examples of political correctness that has really run amok. So we got about as far as this one. So let me tell you about some more examples. The students at the University of New Hampshire have been given a bias-free language guide for the kind of talk that's allowed at the University of New Hampshire to stop students from using a long list of unseemingly inoffensive and common words. But the University of New Hampshire differs. So here's what they want. The bad word is homosexual. The good word is same-gender loving. The bad word is American. The good word is, they object to American because we're not the only American. There's South America too. Caucasian, that's the bad word. The good word, European American individuals. Elderly is the bad word. Advanced age is the good word. Healthy as the bad word. And the good word is non-disabled individual. Mothering and fathering. Do not use. Avoid gendering a non-gendered activity. This was developed by the students at the University of New Hampshire. The university president was troubled by many things about it.
So they don't mention anything about the four-letter words.
Well,
Those are acceptable.
No, that's typical. Burritos at Stevenson College in Santa Cruz, California. Eating this may offend someone if you do it in the wrong context. Students held a science fair about science fiction with pictures of spaceships and aliens. They chose to serve burritos. The university received a complaint from one student that said it was offensive because it made a connection between individuals of Latino heritage or undocumented students and aliens. The university president issued an apology to him. Crazy at Smith College. After a panel on free speech, when the speakers were getting wild and crazy, the school newspaper refused to print that, saying the wild and crazy was offensive, maintaining the word crazy was ableist offensive to mentally disabled individuals.
These people have nothing else to do with their time?
Yeah, it gets better. This one here is long, and the end is, it's stupid. I'll skip it. But it is unbelievable out in UCLA. Oh, the heck with it, I'm going to read it. No, it's, I'm sorry, Wellesley College. Oh, yeah, okay. Wellesley College. The student body is offended by Michelangelo's statue of David. This started in 2014 when sculptor Tony Mattelli installed an exhibit called Sleepwalker, a realistic sculpture of a man in his tighty-whities. Students at the all-female college were offended and frightened. They demanded it be removed because it invoked sexual assault. One angry feminist wrote, "What does the statue do if not remind us of the fact of male privilege? Every single time we pass it, every single time we think about it, every time we are forced to acknowledge its presence, as if we need more reminders. A petition to remove it was started because the statue has become a source of apprehension, fear, and triggering thoughts regarding sexual assault." The university took no action, so some students vandalized it, spraying yellow paint on it. Yeah, that was the end of it, yeah. They vandalized it and sprayed it with paint, and now they're just, no one knows what to do about it.
Now, how does Wellesley survive being an all-girls school? I thought we were supposed to be all integrated.
I don't understand that at all. If we had an all-men's school, you can bet your life that would be changed very quickly, yeah.
I wonder what happens to males who apply.
I wonder. I can tell you, I don't know when to leave well enough alone, but going through Plainville, there was an all-girls gym called Tight Lines.
Okay.
I said, I'm going to go in there and ask if I can join. I went in, and they said no. I said, why not? Because you're a man. Now, what's that got to do with anything? This is for all women. I said, why? What's the big problem? We don't want you looking at us while we exercise.
Well, that's a true complaint.
So, and then she said the magic word then. If you don't leave, I'm going to call the police.
But the thing is, if you were black, I mean, you're being treated like so-called blacks have been treated. You can't come in. Why? Because of your skin color. Why? Because of your gender. What if you're transgender? What would happen then if you went and applied? That would be all over the papers.
Yup. Different strokes for different folks, I guess. Well, this UCLA professor has really made a mess of things. When marking papers, he corrected spelling and grammatical errors. This offended some minority students and this was, oh boy, I can't read my own writing. This offended some minority students and were part of a hostile campus climate for students of color. So they had to sit in and read a group letter aloud. One protester began to cry. "I'm tired and it hurts me so much," she said. Number 10, college campuses have become so extreme over PC that comedians like Jerry Seinfeld refuse to appear, saying the rampant political correctness will destroy them. These are from a different website, and they're more quick and to the point.
Okay.
Washington state prisons refer to inmates as students. Students at University of Oregon debate removing MLK dream quote because it's not gender inclusive. A senior officer, Air Force, Lackland Air Force Base in San Antonio, a senior officer sent an email to base personnel warning the terms boys and girls are banned. That is a 100% zero tolerance in the workplace. Elon College, North Carolina, bans the term freshman, saying it is sexist and might promote sexual violence. The preferred term is first year.
You know, they talk about fake news. It's going to get worse if you have to use all these fake words.
Yeah. This is beautiful. This is good. I love this one. The Seattle Police Department cannot use the term suspect in their reports. It must be, quote, a community member, unquote. Princeton University bans the word man, such as in businessman, policeman, spokesman. Easy to replace is business person, police officer, spokesperson.
But that's not so bad because you know, you can understand what it is. But a student and a prisoner, they're two different things. A spokesperson and a spokesman are so close together, I can't have fault with that.
I can, because I'm a nitpicker. Now they are mandating the following. Man and wife, can't say that anymore. Spouses or partners. Man-made, must be artificial. Workmanlike. Oh, no, you know what? Man-made is, must be not artificial. Sorry about that. No, man-made, artificial, yeah. Workmanlike, that's banned. Skillful. And layman is gone. Non-specialist. A doctors group in England says no more expectant mother, because this may offend transgender people. Instead, say pregnant people.
I love it. Oh, funny.
However, woman You know, I can't write fast anymore. However, women's rights activist Laura Perrins told the Daily Mail, "The action is anti-science, anti-woman, anti-mother. This will offend women up and down the country and is an example of the majority of women being insulted for a tiny minority of people." The University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee declared the term politically correct as taboo. It has been a way to deflect, say, that people too sensitive and to police language. It is disconnected from authentic understanding or impact, whatever all that meant. Teacher course claims math is dehumanizing, that it is a dehumanizing tool, that math is a powerful tool for advocacy or oppression. A 6-week course to combat this explores mathematical identity, because when we think of renowned mathematicians, many of us reference Western white males.
I don't know.
Unbelievable. And there's just one more. I'll do it real quick. Rise of the use of gender-neutral subjects and pronouns. University of Tennessee adopted the following policy so not as to offend transgender students by referring to them as he, him, his, or she, hers, hers. Teachers and students now must use gender-neutral terms. Z, Zia, Zers, and XE, XEM, and XYRS. It is recommended instructors ask the students which they prefer. Well, on that note, boys and girls, we just have one more set of those to plow.
You said boys and girls.
What? People. Viewers.
Artificials.
The artificials. Well, folks, listen. I'm glad that you tuned in. And a couple of weeks from now, come on back for more. There'll be more, I'll guarantee you. And who knows? The woodchuck might be back again. We don't know.
We don't know. This weather is unpredictable.
That's it. Well, folks, thank you very much. Good night.